Hey everybody, it's Steve Owens, Tournament Director with the Georgia Bass Nation Kayak Series. Today's Monday, the day after our championship on Lake Lanier. We were hosted by Hammond's Fishing, and the event went really well. The fishing was really good. I want to congratulate Tom Kazmarski on winning. So Tom's a former Angler of the Year winner, and now he's a state champion. So want to address the penalty that happened over the weekend. There's literally been some comments and posts put out there that are unfactual. They're slanted, and just to be flat honest, there's an intent behind that. Instead of questioning what happened, there are matter of fact statements that have been said that are absolutely not true, literally false, things that never happened. First one was stating that. So I'll tell you exactly what happened. So I'd gotten a call from a concerned angler who had launched from Lula Bridge, I believe is the name of it. And I had explained to the field who were launching in that area, they reached out. And when you launch at Lula, there's a little bit of dirt between you and the main body of water. You can drag down to that body of water just like it's low level on Lake Hartwell, and you're at the biggest boat ramp in the world. If you're at the bottom of the ramp and there's some dirt, you can drag into the water. There's no problem there. And so this person had said that there were three anglers that went up the way towards where the shoals are, and a shoal bass was submitted. And so at that point, I reached out to those three anglers that gentleman mentioned. And two of those went up that way. One of them stopped and just chose not to. And where the confusion was that when I told them that they could drag there, the angler thought that you could drag up a shoal and fish. And so I got a hold of the specific three anglers were Christian Conrad, Nick Dyer. They didn't go up to the shoal. Or they went to and then they stopped. And then Louis Delgado drug up a shoal and it caught a shoal bass. And so that was what had happened there. So reached out to him. He said, yeah, I was confused. I got confused, thought that, we could drag. And so I said, no, you can't do that in this tournament. We don't do that. And so, but I understand his confusion by telling him he could drag, and his brain, he just went there. So he made a mistake. There was no cheating involved. He made a mistake. So at that point, I let the angler go. I contacted our tournament panel across the country. There's 5 tournament directors that we all share situations and stories. I don't make these decisions on my own simply because I don't know everything. Sometimes, you need other people's insight to make it the correct decision. And you owe that to your people in your tournament series to do that. And so from there, each of us discussed what had happened. And we saw where it very easily was able to administer a penalty to the angler by finding when he submitted a fish above the area that he had to drag across. And so let's say that time was 11:30 a.m. We notified that angler that your fish from 11:30 a.m. are disqualified from day one. And so that was his 2 largest fish on his stringer. The other fish that he caught were early in the morning below the area that he had drug over. So for us, that was the best case scenario. I'll share something with you as a tournament director. When there are instances on the water where an angler makes a mistake and you can issue a penalty to them, then that's what you need to do. If it's an instance of cheating or doing something unethical, then that's when you can step in and disqualify them from the entire day one or the entire tournament in and of itself. This wasn't one of those cases. There's been allegations that I changed boundaries and supposed screenshots of where I changed boundaries, which is an absolute lie. The boundaries, the only anything on Lake Lanier that's ever been changed is essentially the Belton Bridge launch, or there's a launch above Belton Bridge. If there's low water, then those 2 areas become landlocked and basically you're fishing a pond. So we actually removed Belton Bridge, which is not giving an advantage to anyone. It's actually a disadvantage because you're taking out water. That bridge was eliminated weeks before the event. Public knowledge, all there. Some other things were that I had disqualified an angler in the past for doing the same thing, which is not true. If they're talking about a National Bassmaster event that was pretty popular, that wasn't my event. I had nothing to do with that. I got questioned about it, but I had nothing to do with that. And that angler wasn't disqualified for allegedly portaging. It was a totally different scenario. So that's another falsity right there that's been put out by a group of people with an agenda. So once that happened with that angler, I explained that. And during awards, I explained what had happened. Maybe not in this great a detail, but I did. And so from that, a few sentences evidently gave some people a stance where they could feel like, I did this and that. And then it was said that, if it were anybody other than this particular person, I would have disqualified them. And because he's my friend or an associate or something like that. And that's absolutely not true as well. You can look at every history of everything I've ever done. You all know Ryan Lambert's my brother. We've been friends for 20 plus years. I've penalized him in tournaments when he had a mistake or an infraction. I've done the same thing to Daniel Davis. My own boss, Jamie Koza, I disqualified 97 inches of smallmouth in the championship because his complete identifier wasn't in the picture. I have disqualified and penalized my friends and people that I don't even know. There's no gray area there for me in that. As I mentioned, I hung up the phone, communicated with a council of people that we use for everything in this country, and that was the right decision to make. And so that's where we're at with that. The stuff that's been said, you need to be mindful of the company that you keep, just to be flat honest, because the screenshots I've gotten of the things that have been said in the past about people and these kind of, I won't even say unfounded, because there was a situation that people brought to light and I could see where you have questions about it. But the big concern is that there was no questions about it. It was just a bunch of matter of fact statements by some people that have a history of doing this. And for me, it's I'm just the Holy Spirit. I've been praying and going through this. The Holy Spirit shut me up. I'm just saying, I appreciate everybody in this sport, everybody in this state. Georgia's, I mentioned it, Georgia's had some struggles, and it's this kind of stuff here. And I don't know if it's for a person's own gain, if it's because they don't like someone, if there's something perceived to be some sort of level of success or whatever. But I've always been an inclusive person. I don't care if there's people that have stabbed me in my back that I continue to help to this day, because that's what we do. What happened today or yesterday is not what's supposed to happen tomorrow. We make amends for things, apologies are given out and received and accepted, and we move forward regardless of what's happened in the past. And I'll continue to be that kind of person. But for this stuff here, I apologize to the guys. I mean, the only other thing I could have done is on Saturday evening put out a live post and said, "Hey guys, here's what happened. We levied an infraction." And maybe that's what we have to do. I don't know, but and maybe I will from now on. But the thing is I'm not going to drag an angler's name, which is what most of the time the Facebook crowd wants. They want me to put a name out there that somebody did something to drag them down the road. Literally during the tournament, Saturday evening after the tournament, a gentleman sent me a screenshot from a person saying that we were allowing tail pinching, which was totally violation of the rules. The screenshot that this person sent to get to me, instead of sending it directly to me, they went through someone else. Don't know who they are, but still, the screenshot of these alleged rules was an AI generated, it looked like to me, explanation of rules, or maybe their own club rules. I don't know where they got them, but they certainly weren't the Georgia Bass Nation rules. Georgia Bass Nation, along with Bassmaster, Hobie, countless of our grassroots trail series, we all allow tail pinching. So to say something like that, my point is if you have an issue with something, you should speak up, and you should speak up in confidence that you're going to be heard, because I don't shun anyone and I don't dismiss anyone's opinion. I can get angry about the delivery or the tone, but I don't isolate. And so for that to be, a source of, Georgia Bass Nation is allowing this, when it clearly, if you look at the Georgia Bass Nation rules, there's a picture of you pinching a tail and it being allowed. And as a matter of fact, there was another gentleman that had a concern or a gripe, if you will, about it. And I pull up his own fish picks during the same tournament, and he's pinching the tail as well. So it just goes to show that there's some bad characters in certain things, man. And I don't like it. And I'm not the police. I'm nobody's dad. But we've got a good tournament series, and we've got a great state. Things like this are why there's been, some downturn in grassroots in certain states. And, you know, I'm not going to continue to do that. I won't do that to people. So, um, I'm kind of rambling on here, but I'm trying to wrap it up here, and I will, and we'll get into the tournament. But, those things that were said flat out, I just walked back every single one of them in front of you and showed you those things didn't happen. They didn't happen. We may not like the decision we made that we handed to Delgado, but I will do it again and again, and I'll do it for anyone. If you're a person that's angry about this, I can understand that, but I'll do the same thing for you if it happens to you. If you cheat, then it'll be handled. But if there's an area there where it's something that can be corrected and we can continue on with a good competition, then that's what we'll do. But I'm not going to turn this into an us versus them kind of thing, because I don't care who you are, who you're affiliated with. You're welcome to fish this trail series, and you can fish this trail series knowing good and well that the rules will be upheld. You can look at the history of our tournament series. We've not had any cheating scandal. We've had penalties that have to be addressed, and even those are going away. On day one, literally day one, I had one fish I had to disqualify because I couldn't see the identifier, and that angler had a second picture. So there literally were zero fish infractions until the removal of Delgado's two fish, and those were the two largest fish on his stringer. But and what we do like is that people are at home checking the stringers throughout the day. Number one, it means they're excited about following what you guys and girls are doing on the water, but it also puts in a set of eyes that holds us all accountable for these things. So absolutely, in no way am I upset of people questioning what happened, but it was the malicious disregard for actually truth that was thrown out there, and to get it spun and say that you know those statements were just statements based off of things that I said. So you can't pass judgment on an entire situation based off of two lines that probably total 1 minute of video talk. And if that's how you choose to do that, then we don't need to be associates of any kind. If you see something like that and it concerns you, why wouldn't you reach out if you care about the sport and ask exactly what happened, so that now you don't have to walk back things that who knows who has already passed a judgment on, and so now they have a judgment of things based off of some people who potentially just flat out said some things that weren't accurate. So you know that's that there. I'm going to pull up the Attorney X standings here, just for those of you that are tuned in now, and maybe you didn't get to see our awards, but I'm just going to go ahead and run down our top 10. Our big bass for the event was Benjamin Vang. Benji's he catches a lot of good fish. He's always a concern on Lanier, Hartwell, Lake Seminole. So, which reminds me, our schedule is published now. We're kicking off the season December, the second weekend of December, back on Lanier. So we're excited to get down there in the wintertime. Wintertime fishing can suck because of the cold, but that body of water down there, we're going to wreck them then. So in 10th place with 168 inches for the weekend, we had Nick Jones. In 9th place, he was up there quite a bit on day one. He had 92.25 inches on day one. It was Richard Carbone. Day two struggled a little bit. He had a good limit, but it was only 79 inches, so that got him in 9th. In 8th place is this year's Carl Black Chevrolet Kennesaw Angler of the Year, Joseph Gayton, with 89.75 and 84.75. Got him 174.5 for 8th place. In 7th place with 89 and 85.75 is Kendon Townsell. Kendall had 174.75, landed him in 7th place. In 6th was Louis Delgado with 86 and a quarter and 89 inches on day 2 for 175 and a quarter. And then taking the first spot from the Georgia Bass Nation Kayak Series to represent our state, or your state, or the state of Georgia, I guess, because we all live in different states, it seems. But Jeremy Meadows takes that first spot with 178 and a quarter inches. And in 4th place, taking that second spot with 91 on day 1 and 87 and a half on day 2, Eric Hawks finished 4th with 178 and a half. To back up, I believe Jeremy Meadows took home $325. Eric Hawks was $425. 3rd place is Josh Choi, had 92 and a half on day 2, 86 and 3/4 on day 1, taking home $525 in 3rd place. In 2nd place, with 89 and a half and a 90 and 3/4 for 180 and a quarter inches, is Chris Willis, took home $1,000. And again, I mentioned earlier, with 95 and 3/4 and 93 and 3/4, 89 and a half inches for the weekend, put on an absolute clinic, catching over 20 fish, 20 scoreable fish that he uploaded. In 1st place, taking home $2,025 is Tom Kazmierski. So we appreciate you guys. Again, we apologize we had to talk through these kind of things, but it's part of running a tournament series. It's not the first time things have happened that we've had to talk through. Won't be the last time, but I'm going to talk through it. I just will. I'm not going to let things go unnoticed or unaddressed. It might not be in the time frame that you think, but I'll do my best to let my emotions settle down before I address things. And then before I make decisions, that's why, I reached out to our angler pool. We don't have a lot of people that do things on a level that have been through, the experience of these kinds of things. And all the guys that we communicate with, they have. I mean, we've been around for a good little while. Doesn't mean we know everything. Doesn't mean we always bring our A game. But we've been through these situations to where we have a track history of decisions that have been made, so that we can refer back to that, and so that I'm not disqualifying John and letting Jim off the hook or whatever, because not one time has that ever happened. If there's been a penalty, we've done the best job that we could to make certain that it stays that way across the board. So it's not always easy to reach out to people and talk, but I'm telling you, do that. I would do it to you, and I expect that same respect until I'm not giving it, which evidently it seems to be the case for whatever reason. But I don't disrespect people. I don't talk to people ugly. And so, you're always going to be able to reach out to me, good, bad, or indifferent. If you don't like my decision, that's understandable. That's okay. We're not going to agree on everything, but that doesn't mean that we're enemies here, and we're not going to be able to fish together and continue to grow a series. We got some good shops in our area. We need every one of those shops to be healthy. We need every one of those shops to thrive. We send business from Dugout Bait and Tackle that I work for to the other shops in the area. We send business across the country to people. If we don't have something, we help you get it direct. And that's the way we've always been. And that's the way I'll continue to always be. So didn't mean to keep you on here this long, but I did want to address those things like that. If you've got any other questions about it, if you're not comfortable calling me, shoot me an email. And we'll go over it, and we'll educate, and I'll take your opinions in. And if your opinion proves that mine needs to be changed, then buddy, I'll adapt, because that's how we make it through life, is becoming an evolution of a human in your actions and in your beliefs too, in a large part. So take care of yourself, you guys. We're going to wrap it up for a little while. We'll see y'all in December. And if you need anything, y'all reach out. Take care of yourselves.
What matters to you? Commitment, dedication, precision, connection. Catching fish? Good. That matters to us too.